Hello everybody and welcome back to another Prove Me Wrong PGI edition, this one focusing on Technical Readout 2750. Now, in my personal belief of the game, and remember this is all just down to personal choice, PGI have made a mad dash towards obviously getting to a later timeline. Specifically, in my opinion, they've pushed toward getting to the MechWarrior 4 era of the series, so they can bring out a bunch of mechs that tickle the nostalgia node within certain people's brains to get them to buy mechs. I think we've seen that with some of the more recent releases on the Inner Sphere side of things, and a little bit on the clan side. But I think we've missed some really solid mechs that have been part of BattleTech a lot longer than some of the others that have been around in MechWarrior 3 and 4. And I think that they could, just like those that have been missed out of 3025, have some good gameplay elements. And sometimes they have a historical background into certain clan mechs being designed anyway in the first place, and also some of the mechs that preceded them and why they were made, such as the Hellspawn not having the Dervish, which is what it was built to replace, being a prime example of a mech that currently isn't in MechWarrior Online, missing that little link lineage-wise. I'd also like to make a little bit of a addendum to the Prove Me Wrong 3025 edition, because there was actually two mechs I missed, and we're going to get around to them first, and then I'm going to jump straight into the 2750 mechs. So let's get to it. So I'd like to kick off with the honourable mentions. Two mechs that I actually forgot from Prove Me Wrong PGI 3025, because going through it at the time, I have to admit, I do largely forget about the poor Ost series. Though I covered the Ost Scout, its two fellows, the Ost Sol and the Ost Strock, both 60-ton heavies, definitely deserve their place within PGI's MechWarrior Online environment. Not only that, because they're not actually unseen anymore, which they were considered that for a short time, but have since become active again, so they're not mechs that they'd have to worry about any kind of lawsuits. So the first off is the OTL-4D Ost Sol. Now granted, it looks odd, which is what all the Ost series look like. It's no slouch, and certainly a fine contender for the average MWO player's desire to alpha like a pro. The 4D comes equipped with 6 energy hardpoints with 2 large lasers and 4 medium lasers. Has pretty respectable speed at 86 kph prior to speed tweak, and for a 60-tonner it's surprisingly well protected with a 300 standard engine, coming with 9 tons of armour. The OTL-5D is a Davian-built rocket launcher version that comes with 5 hardpoints for that one-pump chump action, but more importantly, it's 5 missile hardpoints. The OTL-5M is a Star League upgrade tech-wise that replaces the engine with an XL model and upgrades the weapons to pulse versions. And the OTL-7M is your ballistics option that comes with 2 light Gauss and 4 ER mediums. It pretty much covers every base hardpoint wise, and it adds another 60-tonner to the lineup. The OST-2 Ostrock is one of the oldest battle mech designs in BattleTech's universe. It was first built in 2511. It's another 60-tonner that's built for urban combat primarily, but it can function outside of the city environment. It was used extensively by all of the great houses over the centuries, and it's visually more palatable compared to the Ost Sol and the Ost Scout, though the new version of the Ost Scout does look very good. Now, it comes with 2 large lasers and 2 medium lasers, along with a single SRM-4, which is a pretty nice, decent hardpoint layout. Like the Ost Sol, it also has a standard 300, which makes it pretty fast, and other models exist, though most of the earlier ones aren't that dissimilar to the original build. You do, however, have the OSR-4L, which is a pretty nice model that comes with 2 ER large, 2 ER medium, jump jets, ECM, and stealth armour. And at a push, you could also use the OS2-2CB, which could be added since it comes with an ER large as standard instead of the mediums, but instead of the SRM-4, you get 2 Streak 2s for added missile joy. And of course, this isn't also ruling out that if PGI want to expand on the number of hardpoints and other things available, they can just make a reinforcement pack that for any of these that adds extras for that. And so moving straight into the 2750 lights, we have, to kick it off, the MCY-99 Mercury. I've always loved the design of this mech visually. It has really low profile combined with this really bizarre torso shape and arms that just always kind of looked cool to me. It made for a nice mini on the table. It was very distinct. It was originally meant to replace the now aging Wasp and Stingers that debuted in 2742, and it was hailed as the beginning of a new age of mech design, though it doesn't really explain why that's the case. It just is. It's fluff. At 20 tons, it was better equipped than any of its rivals, coming with 2 medium lasers and 2 small lasers, and was intended to be the SLDF's exclusive raiding and light scout unit. It was fast as well. It ran 129 kph normally, but it came equipped with mask, so it could run up to 172 with that enabled. All of that in a 20-tonner, and it doesn't use an XL engine, so consider that for customization. I will concede the other versions of the Mercury are quite limited in their variants. The Comstar built MCY-97 actually drops a weapon of the medium and the small in favour of a Beagle probe, which isn't great. The MCY-98 is a downgrade from the Succession War model that drops the Ferro and the mask, but does add more armour. And the only workable model is the MCY-104, which was on the 3070 era Word of Blake mech, that adds an extra ER medium laser alongside the others, and a tag, meaning it has 6 energy hardpoints. And to go back to the MCY-98, you could also add extra hardpoints if you wanted something a bit more, you know, flexible, or whatever they want to do with it, mess with the engine rating, that kind of thing. If PGI were going to add it, let's get it in there. As long as we can get a minimum of 3 variants, I don't see what the problem is here. The THE-N Thorn. Easily one of my favourite Star League era lights. The Thorn looks really cool, really good. I love the mini of this thing. It's a light considered at the time to be too slow to actually be a scout mech, and it's trying to do the work of a heavier unit. Again, at 20 tons, it comes with 2 medium lasers and a single LRM-5. It only moves 97 kph max, but is pretty well armoured for its weight. The other models include the THE-NB model that drops the LRM-5 in favour of an ER large and reduces one of the mediums to a small. This allows it to use mask, and it comes with an XL engine, so its top speed is increased quite considerably. The N1 model goes extremely heavy with a single ER PPC, with one of my favourite names for an ER PPC, the Kinslaughter, and it has a head-mounted small. Considering that there's a complete dearth of 20-ton mechs in MechWarrior Online, both on the Insta and Clan side, both of these machines are really nice alternatives to currently running the Locust. And, you know, you don't get harassed by a company for using these that is less than harmonious, and certainly not golden in any way, shape or form. Going up in weight a little bit, at 25 ton, we have the MON-66 Mongoose. Common theme of many Innisphere lights I've found is that they always attempted to replace things like the Locust, the Wasp, or the Stinger. The Mongoose, however, did largely succeed in this job, as it was welcomed with open arms by the SLDF. It comes with 3 medium lasers and single small alongside Beagle probes. This makes it a powerful recon and guerrilla fighter that doesn't need resupply for any extended period. At 25 ton, it's well equipped armor-wise and has a pretty good top speed of 130 kph. Other variants that could mix things up include the MON-69 that adds a single SRM-2 instead of the Beagle probe, the MON-70 that adds, actually ups the number of energy hardpoints by dropping the small laser in favour of 2 flamers alongside the 3 medium, so 5 energy hardpoints, and finally the MON-86 uses a light PPC, XL engine, ER small, and also retains the head-mounted small. Now, excuse me there. Rounding out the 2750 lights, we have the HSR-200-D Hussar. It's 30 tons and was a dedicated light scout. Equipped with a single ER large laser, it would make for a fine harasser and sniper build for any of those players back in the days who enjoyed running Ravens and Locusts with pretty similar builds. The upside of this light, however, is that it has a pretty incredible speed of 151 kph prior to speed tweak. What was really unique about this was the fact that the laser was actually turret mounted because the torso didn't twist. Now, imagine if PGI actually gave us that functionality. You using A and D by default or whatever keys you set up to turn left and right, and your mouse is actually controlling the turret. It would completely change the gameplay, and I think it would be quite unique and pretty fun actually. You know, the more unique elements of certain mechs that we can add in, the more interest there is, I think, in general, of coming up with different tactics and stuff like that. So it has other variants. There was the HSR-200DB, which adds a Beagle probe and ECM, so The weapon doesn't change, but you do get a few extra bonuses. And the HSR 350-D adds 2 medium lasers to the mix, so they were mounted in the arms, so you get a lower top speed. However, you do get a few extra hardpoints. And finally, the Clanbuster model deployed by Comguards, the Battle of Tukid, which is the HSR-400-D that mounts a single LB-10, so some ballistics in there. And that rounds out the lights for 2750. Alright, granted, they aren't as numerous and they aren't as variant heavy as some of the others from 3025, but we're filling in gaps in in certain weight classes that Mech Warrior Online sorely needs. Maybe not in the 30-ton range or 35-ton range, but definitely in the 20 to 25-ton range. We are lacking quite a few there, and the Mercury, the Thorn, and the Mongoose would be pretty ample additions for the Innisphere side of things. And I know some of the complaints about the previous one was that where are the clan mechs? And granted, when they're available in the later TROs, I'll certainly get round to them. And it's not, it's no illusion here. Oh god, my throat. There's no illusion here that the clans are certainly lacking in certain weight classes of mechs as well. The one downside with the clans, just sticking with the whole light side of things at the moment, is that the clans don't need as many mechs because their Omnitech basically allows many of their mechs to perform multiple roles. Although I'm not saying that this is a one-to-one thing, but as an example, you would have a light in the Innisphere category that's 20 ton that is built to do this role, and that's it. Whereas the clans have a 20 tonner that can be swapped out to do this role, so now it's doing the same role as a commando. Now it's swapped out and it's the same role as the Mercury. Now it's swapped out and it's the same role as a Thorn. Now it's swapped out and it's the same role as a Hussar. One of their lights can basically do and function exactly the same way as many Innisphere lights do. So, are there going to be more Innisphere mechs? Yeah, because there are more Innisphere mechs. That's part of it. One of the writing limitations of adding an entirely new faction and tech base, nearly 10 years down the line. So it's gonna have that impact, and granted, more clan mechs do slowly start to filter in over time, but don't take it that I'm purposely ignoring certain clan mechs. As I said, when the technical readout has them, I will certainly get round to them, especially any of the ones that PGI have missed. But just be aware that there aren't going to be as many because the clan mechs are just better at doing the jobs that many Innisphere mechs have to have. And many Innisphere factions have to have different mechs to do. So yeah, just to clear that up. Next up is the mediums. Now fortunately, we already have a couple of the mediums already covered in Mech Warrior Online in the form of the Crab and the Kintaro. Nice additions, and they do work quite well. The remaining mediums that were left out of 2750 include the STN-3L Sentinel. Now, it does have a very similar kind of visual theme to a few Star League era mechs that were added in the time, which was this kind of rounded body theme with low-slung arms, and the chicken walker legs. It's common in this book, but it's not too common in Mech Warrior Online, and visual diversity is always nice to see, isn't it? So the Sentinel was a 40-tonner that was built for the Lyran Commonwealth Armed Forces, but the SLDF managed to piss them off by wangling a contract with Defiance Industries for themselves. This was a model that wasn't given to any of the other houses for several years after the fact. So the standard Sentinel actually comes with an Ultra AC5, small laser, and Streak SRM2. Its top speed was 97 kph, and that comes with a standard Pitband 240, so no XL engine used there. There was also the Royal model, which was the STN-3LB. That actually came with a Gauss rifle and a medium laser in place of the Streak, but it also retained the small, so not too bad. And there was a later model, which was the STN-4D, which changed the Ultra AC, or AC at the time, to a Rotary 5 model with a single ER medium. Not bad considering it's 40 tons, and a Gauss rifle equipped mech at 40 tons is pretty nasty. Next up is the WVE-5N Wyvern. Now, yeah, this thing looks like a horror movie monster in some images, and even when it doesn't look scary, it's pretty weird looking, but it's also kind of cool because it looks so unique. The Wyvern excelled in urban combat, being jump jet equipped, and was quite well armed for 45 tons. It has a single LRM-10, SRM-6, large laser, backed up by two small lasers. Basically, it covered a pretty wide area of combat needs, and was quite tough to down in its day. However, it was quite low speed for a 45 tonner, about 60 to 65 kph depending on the model, and thus it needed to engage targets in urban centres or mountainous or forested terrain, basically places where it could get close and use its jump jets to manoeuvre around the rear of an enemy. Other models that work for the Wyvern include the WVE-5N SL, which upgrades the large to an ER model and replaces the SRM-6 with 3 Streak 2s, so even more missiles. The WVE-9N upgrades the large to a pulse model, and the 2 small lasers upgrade to medium pulses. The SRM-6, though, is dropped again in favour of a single Streak 2, and the necessary amount of armour is removed to make for these changes. Finally, though, there's the WVE-10N, an ECM model that comes with ERPPCs in place of the large pulse, and the SRM is dropped again alongside a single medium pulse, but an ECM-equipped 45 tonner definitely makes up for that, I think. So next up we have the heavies, starting with the CHP-1N Champion. Now, I regularly argue with the bro over this heavy. It's simply glorious, whereas he doesn't see this as a fact.
It sucks!
Built by the same people who brought you the Locust, the Champion is a 60-ton heavy that's considered to be quite weak for its class. Its weapons include 2 medium lasers, 2 small lasers, an LB-10 and a single SRM-6 with Artemis. It was quite popular for the SLDF because of its speed of 86 kph would negate most of the poor armour protection they had, which was just 8 tons. Even the clans brought some of them with them during the invasion to act as garrison mechs, so even they saw the use of it. I always loved the design personally and would happily snap up a pack day one if PGI ever announced it. And the weapons loadout is quite diverse for MWO's customization aspect. Other models include the CHP-1MB, used by Royal units of the SLDF that came with a Gauss rifle and a single ERPPC. The CHP-2N is a Succession Wars downgrade, but it changes the LB to an AC-10 and loses the Artemis, but otherwise everything remains exactly the same. The CHP-3N has 2 large lasers and double heat sinks alongside the use of an XL engine. And finally you have the CHP-3P in 3061 that carries 4 ER mediums, a UAC-10 and a NARC beacon. Basically, it's amazing and should be in mechs Online. No bias here. Nope. None at all. After that, we have the LNC-25-01 Lancelot. Ignore the nickname used by Succession Wars pilots of the Coffin, because it was a pretty powerful anti-air heavy. Initially meant to be a medium mech, the designers actually went overboard with it and it turned into a 60-ton heavy. It was highly successful until the loss of the advanced tech put it in the crapper. The original came with a single PPC, 2 large lasers, and a single medium, basically meaning that it had a heavy emphasis on energy hardpoints, and they were all quite high mounted, which is quite useful for MWO players out there. The LNC-25-02 was a downgrade that lost the XL engine, but it retained the same weapons. The engine drop is what made it so slow, and that's how it got the unfortunate nickname. The LNC-25-03 instead focuses on making it a pure ballistics model that carries 2 AC-5s and nothing else. Still, those are quite high mounted, which means players are going to like that aspect of it. The LNC-25-05 later on comes with 4 machine guns in place of one of the medium lasers and the removal of 2 of its heat sinks, which is great for the current machine gun meta that's out there. 60-ton heavy running around at pretty high speeds, boating nothing but machine guns and a couple of backup weapons. That'd be quite deadly. Visually it's quite an odd looking design, but it's also quite unmistakable and visually unique. I think the design team could actually come up with something quite cool for a modern upgrade of it. Next up, you have the EXT-4D Exterminator. The Exterminator was actually quite a sneaky 65-ton heavy that came with some unusual tech. It had one job, and that was killing enemy officers before retreating back to friendly lines. It was equipped with items like the Null Signature system, which was actually something that's referred to in the Archer used by a member of the Kellhounds. It's essentially a type of ECM that just shields you from sensors and targeting systems. It had heat baffling to avoid thermals, and it had a very rare chameleon light polarization shield. Of course, all of these things were never really properly used in Battletech for quite a while, actually. And the polarization shield and the baffling doesn't really have any effect in mechs Online terms, but it basically means it would come with ECM in a way, possibly giving it stealth armor as well. It comes with a quartet of medium lasers, an LRM-10 and a single small. So again, the Star League heavy emphasis on energy weaponry with a little bit of backup. Basically, it gets up close and personal. The function ended up with many exterminators being destroyed by the Great Houses during the Succession Wars because, well, officers didn't want to get murdered unexpectedly, and the mech was pretty much extinct in the Inner Sphere leading up to the clan invasion. Succession War models, though, did come about, such as the EXT-4A that replaced the AMS system with machine guns, and the EXT-4C was the full stealth model. Finally, you also had the EXT-4DB that replaced the LRM-10 with a single ER large laser, so that was just pure energy. Next up, we have the BMB-12D Bombardier. Basically, think of it as a 65-ton, slightly lighter, uglier Archer with an emphasis on missiles and no energy backup. The mech was actually meant to fire specialised artillery rounds and act as walking artillery batteries, but the functions never really materialised in Battletech. Although the write-up mentions it, they never seem to come up with any rules for these specialised artillery rounds. The standard model came with two LRM-20s and an SRM-4 backed up by an AMS to protect it from counter-battery fire. The mech in MWO terms can actually serve quite well as a dedicated missile boat with 3 missile hardpoints, but PGI could easily inflate them a bit just to make it a little more appealing, and I could see it working in the arenas of MWO. The BMB-10 model isn't much of a change, but again, messing around with hardpoints you could get it to work. The only difference with that one is that the AMS is replaced by a machine gun, which seemed to be quite a regular switch up there. The engine is also replaced with a much slower one, but it remains with pretty much the same weapon-wise outside of that. It's quite a tough sell. I wouldn't be shocked if it never made an appearance in MechWarrior Online or maybe any MechWarrior game. But I also like to highlight this mech because it's one of those examples of a kind of a great failure within the Battletech universe to show that not everything is a hit, and sometimes mechs were built and, well, kind of flopped hard. Moving into 70 tons, we have the GLT-3N Guillotine. Much like the Wyvern, it's actually pretty unique visually with a very unusual armour patterning. It's actually quite an old mech as well, dating back to 2499, but still retains some quite impressive firepower and works well in MWO's high-mounted meta sniping style due to the arm placement. It has a large laser, SRM-6 and 4 medium lasers, so plenty of energy to play around with. There are other models, such as the later 8D that changes things up with a Streak 6, 2 ER larges and adds double heat sinks, and it features a targeting computer. The 4L model is the downgrade version that drops things like case and endo steel, but with some hardpoint tweaking it could easily be justified as an addition to round it out with 3 models, not including obviously a hero and whatever reinforcements we want to make up on the fly. And to finish off the heavies, we have the FLS-8K Flashman. Nicknamed the Light Bulb, it's the second evolutionary stage of the Urban Mech before it evolves into the Imp when traded via link cable. The 75-ton Flashman is another heavy that loves to carry lasers, and yep, more lasers. The SLDF like their energy boats, and that's no exception. It has 9 energy hardpoints, because it carries 3 large lasers, 5 medium lasers, and a single flamer. Its potential's high, and at 75 ton it means it will appeal to any of you who enjoy running similar weight classes. The significant downside to running the Flashman is that pretty much every other version is the exact same build with minor variances in things like engine, armor, and other equipment. It's not bad, but I can understand it being a tough sell for a $20 pack. If they did add it though, I could see people buying it just because of the huge number of energy hardpoints that it has available to it. And in the last category we have the Assault, kicking off with the THG-11E Thug. Why hasn't this been added? It's a mystery. Much like the Warhammer, the Thug has won every single battle it's ever been used in. In fact, when 2 Thugs engage in combat, there is no winner, only a begrudging respect between 2 pilots who then agree to maul every other mech that gets close to them. It also helps that it can punch out God and is capable of going Super Saiyan 3. Facts aside, the Thug is an incredibly cool looking assault that comes with 2 PPCs and 2 SRM-6. The THG-11EB is a royal model that upgrades the PPCs to ER models and adds double heatsinks. The 12K adds ECM, and the 13K has 3 heavy PPCs and 2 medium pulse lasers. Come on, Russ, why isn't the Thug in the game already? I mean, it's the Thug. And to round it out, we have the CRK-5003-2 Crockett. Finally, this is the 85 tonner. It was built as a training mech for the SLDF and didn't see combat for quite a while until its potential was realised by, well, the training cadres, and it was pressed into frontline service. Even after the collapse of the SLDF, many of the great houses quickly took the Crocketts out of the training regiments that they were in and moved them to frontline combat. It has 2 smalls, 2 SRM6s, 2 ER larges, and a single LB10. It's a pretty good spread hardpoint-wise. The Royal variant, the CRK-5003-1B, replaces the LB10 and SRMs with even more medium lasers and some pulse lasers, and basically adds more laser with an added benefit of a Gauss rifle. Essentially, it's another energy boat from the SLDF that comes with the added smattering of Gauss rifle technology or some other ballistics. It's also pretty interesting to look at, and it's kind of popular with the Draconis Combine. They renamed all of theirs Katanas instead of Crockett. I don't know, probably because something to do with Davian. That's usually the reason they do that. But it's another pretty cool looking assault mech. And at 85 ton, it fills a niche where there aren't really that many 85 ton mechs currently floating around in MechWarrior Online, so it would be cool to see that. And that rounds it out for 2750's TRO. I know I've covered every single mech in the list, and yeah, it might not fit for all of them, and some of them might just be kind of redundant due to other existing mechs, but some of them I just think are pretty cool looking. It would be nice to see a handful of these to be added at some point. It's a shame that 2750 was largely overlooked, especially in the light category. Sure, we got the Crab and the Kintaro and the Highlander and the King Crab, but there's plenty of other mediums and lights listed there, alongside more heavies that have just been completely ignored. And considering the fact that heavies are probably the most populous category, and probably the most popular category in MechWarrior Online, there's some pretty good mechs to mine there. Especially with things like the Flashman with its huge number of energy hardpoints, the Guillotine with its more interesting visuals, you've got things like the Champion, and in the mediums you have some pretty effective ones. The Sentinel itself coming with a pretty decent lineup of weaponry, and the lights, as I said earlier, would easily help to flesh out things like the 20 ton category and the 25 ton category, which are sorely underlooked. So yeah, let us know if you like that, and even if you don't, I'm probably going to continue with these anyway. I'm going to move over to TRO 3050. That'll be the next one, and then we'll be going above and beyond, probably up to about 3067. Will probably be the last technical readout I do, because that's where we currently are on the timeline. And for all the clanners out there, obviously that's when we start talking about the clan mechs. Although again, there won't be any in 3050 because outside of the Fire Moth, they're all in the game already. So you'll probably have to wait for like 3055 and onwards before you get any of the clan mechs. But don't worry, I understand that there's a bit of a disparity, but I explained that earlier. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.